Today, we continue with Genesis chapter 32 through 34. Jacob is now returning to the land, but before he can fully step into what God has promised, he must be confronted, changed, and brought into alignment. I will read key passages, and I encourage you to read the full chapters on your own. The full reading references are provided for you below. In Genesis chapter 32, verses 1 to 2, Jacob is met by angels of God. He names the place Mahanaim, which means two camps. This shows something important, that what is seen and what is unseen are both present. In Genesis chapter 32, verses 3 to 5, Jacob sends messengers ahead to Esau. In Genesis 32, 6 to 7, he learns that Esau is coming with 400 men. Fear returns. In Genesis chapter 32, verses 9 to 12, Jacob prays. He reminds God of his promise. I am unworthy, but you have said, I will surely make you prosper. This is different from earlier Jacob. He is beginning to depend on God. In Genesis 32, verses 13 to 21, Jacob sends gifts ahead in waves. He is still trying to manage the situation, but then the turning point comes. In Genesis chapter 32 and verse 24, Jacob is left alone, and a man wrestles with him until daybreak. This is not ordinary. In Genesis 32 and 25, Jacob is touched at the hip and is injured, but he does not let go. In Genesis 32 and 26, he says, I will not let you go unless you bless me. This is persistence, but also surrender. In Genesis 32, 27 to 28, his name is changed. Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Identity is changed. Jacob is no longer defined by deception, but by encounter. In Genesis chapter 32 and verse 30, he names the place Peniel. It is because I saw God face to face, and yet his life is spared. He walks away with a limp, but also with a new identity. In Genesis 33, Jacob meets Esau. In Genesis 33 and 3, Jacob bows 7 times as he approaches. But in Genesis 33 and 4, Esau runs to meet him, embraces him, and they weep. What Jacob feared is not what happens. In Genesis 33 and 10, Jacob says, to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Reconciliation takes place. God has already gone before him. In Genesis 34, the tone shifts. 34, verses 1 to 2. Dinah, Jacob's daughter, is violated by Shechem. This brings grief and anger. In Genesis 34 and 7, Jacob's sons are furious. But instead of responding in truth, they respond with deception. In Genesis 34, 13 to 17, they make a false agreement. Genesis 34, 25 to 29, Simeon and Levi take revenge and destroy the city. This is not justice. It is uncontrolled vengeance. In Genesis 34 and 30, Jacob responds, you have brought trouble on me. The consequences are now spreading. This chapter shows the weight of choices, not just individually, but across families. So, what do these chapters show us? God meets people personally and changes them. Genesis 32 and 28. True transformation often comes through struggle. Genesis 32 and 24. God can turn fear into peace. Genesis 33 and verse 4. And reconciliation is possible when God goes before. Genesis 33 and 10. But human anger and deception still bring consequences. Genesis 34:25 through verse 30. Now, let's connect all of this across Scripture. Jacob's wrestling in Genesis 32:24-28 reflects persistence seen later in Hosea chapter 12, verses 3-4, where this moment is remembered. The name Israel begins here and continues throughout all of Scripture. Seeing God and being spared in Genesis 32 and 30 connects with the truth later stated in Exodus 33 and verse 20, showing the uniqueness of this encounter. Reconciliation in Genesis 33 and 4 reflects the call seen later in Romans 12 and 18 to live at peace when possible. The violence in Genesis 34 connects to later warnings about uncontrolled anger, such as James 1 and verse 20. Human anger does not produce God's righteousness. Through all of this, God continues to move his plan forward, even while people are still being shaped. I encourage you to read Genesis chapters 32 through 34 in full. Y'all, watch how God changes identity, how he moves ahead of his people, and how choices continue to carry real weight. The story continues tomorrow.